like timber is so expensive. I'm just like, oh, we're going to bloody a lot of it.
A lot of element though is that I'm just going to have a shot in the dark here.
I love this.
This is going to be going. Strap yourself in, guys.
It's going to get pretty wild from here.
Going once, going twice, sold. You're listening to The Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Property Pod, your weekly engagement into real estate here in the Hobart marketplace. I'm your host, Aaron Horn, and it's a pleasure to be back at the desk with our boys, the real estate agents from 414 Property Co., Patrick Berry and John McGregor. Welcome back, team. How are we doing?
Excited that I'm sitting in this seat for a third week in a row, as
I know. How about it? I told you this is it. We're on now. This is
Back
the game
in
time. We're back on. Property Pod is here to stay, and we're going to get it done.
I cannot get enough of this place.
Did you guys miss it last week when you weren't invited to the studio and I just took the reins all by myself?
Well, did you notice I just sat at the back like a creeper for the whole half an hour? It was like just with the yearning look on my face.
I thought I'd do a little test and see if you listened. I wanted to find out whether you put any homework in. What do we talk about?
I've listened to an episode since 75.
I don't think I have either. I do enough of the editing. I know what goes on in
Well,
it.
it's just like movie stars that never like to watch their movies, so they're just we're professionals and artists. So once it's produced, it's no longer ours.
It's out of your control. Once it's out in the world, it's open slather.
Yeah.
No, look, it was amazing having the team from the Kudalana Collective on. Their Winterfest is actually on the day of this release. So this will come out on Friday between 1 and 7 out at Eddington Point if you're listening to this on the day it comes out. Head along to Winterfest and check that out. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually love the fact that we can support that kind of stuff through this medium as well.
Oh, look, the awesome thing is they reached out to me and said, like, oh, we'd love to pump it up. Is there anything you can do to help? And I was like, yeah, look, if you guys want to come and have a chat, it saves me coming up with the topic for the week. So you're actually doing me a massive favour. I really apprate it.
Come on. John and I bring stuff to this show. It's not all about
we
you,
bring content all the time.
Well, to be honest, Pat, this was one that you brought to the table today. You on the weekend served us up another Jared Bevan article. You threw it out at the gang and said, oh, we could talk about this over on the pod, couldn't we?
So, full disclosure, I read the headline and that's as far as I got with it.
You hit the paywall.
That was it, bloody paywall.
Then you extract information now.
No, look, I went through it. It's actually pretty interesting.
I did have a look over it.
What we were looking at and what caught your eye was how many blocks of land were for sale in Hobart at the current time. Like, obviously, you're quite interested in it. You purchased a block of land?
Bought a block of land, and I think what caught my interest was, will land move into almost like a two-tier market in Hobart? So, where houses are selling quite freely, but will land start to slow down as a result of building costs going up and up and up? So that's probably what caught my eye the most is that land's been so hard to get for so long because, there's so many properties being built in Tasmania.
Yep.
But now with the rising costs, will we start to see land sit around a little bit longer on market? Is there an opportunity out there for a savvy buyer that might be able to get a good block of land at a good rate at the moment because there's less competition than there is to buy a home? That's what sort of caught my eye, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm not sure if you've gone through the notes just yet. I wonder if you guys would be able to guess the amount of land listings that are currently on the market.
I just looked at the screen.
It's right in front of my eyes. Is it 140?
Maybe we'll throw it to the audience. It's just like
you guys are amazing.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, we've got a caller.
Yes. Who's that on line 3? Okay. Yes, you're saying it's 140.
Duh.
No, looking at the notes here that Nino's popped together for us, it is saying that, there's 140 land listings on realestate.com as of the week of the 10th of June, 2022. So, extrapolating from there.
It's way more than I actually thought it would be when I looked through the article. I was expecting, land is you can never get a piece of land.
Yeah.
To build a home, unless you're prepared to live, 40-minute drive from Hobart, 50-minute drive from Hobart, it's near impossible to get it.
Or it's a giant parcel of kind of bush that you can't really do anything with.
Or it's on the side of a hill and, you need a rope to climb up it. These are the problems with the blocks that are normally available in Hobart to buy. So 140, that's a big number.
Well, then when it said the amount of sales that we had in 2020, we'll just use the last 2 years, 390 and 466. So, from last year, that's about a quarter of what it sold. So it's in many ways it seems like a lot, but maybe it isn't. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, let's kind of run through where the majority of the blocks for sale are currently, and just have a look at kind of what's out there. So, there's 16 in Sorel and 13 in Primrose Sands. So you're heading down away from the city, but into some beautiful country.
And there's going to be more down that way as well. They're starting, obviously, there's a heap of new road infrastructure that way. So they've got the new bypass for the airport. They've actually got a Sorel bypass as well that's due to open probably any day now.
Is that where they've done through the causeways?
Yeah, so they've done between the two causeways, they've done at the airport, and they've also now done a whole road that skips Sorel back to Dodgers Ferry. So you can just not even going to Sorel.
Yep.
But as you start to drive through now, you can just see what that bypass will do to open up extra land subdivisions to allow Sorel to grow even larger.
Well, there's on an article I read, was from the Mercury again, actually. I think they're interviewing either one of the Sorel aldermen or something along that line, but they were receiving every month between $1 to $4 million in building applications across their municipality. So, value of building applications.
Yeah.
So that can be anywhere from, 5 every month, just on builds alone, more or less, obviously, depending upon the value of it.
Yeah, so look, I think that area is going to go massive.
Well, just on on a personal level for you, the BMX club is proposing to move to Sorel. Is that something is happening, not happening?
So yes, if people don't know, my little boy races BMX, and we're currently here at Glenorchy is where our track is, but we will be relocating to Sorel. I believe the tenders for the actual construction of the track go out at the end of this week or start of next week.
Yep.
So
Awesome.
yeah, they're very much pushing forward, part of Pembroke Park redevelopment. They've just had the sports stadium built down there as well. I think there's a full-time cafe in the sports stadium as well that you can use at any stage. Footy oval's there, the skate park's there. So it's going to be a really great multi-use sport.
Oh.
I think there's netball courts in behind as well. So it's got a bit of everything down
So,
there.
Sorel is growing, and it's going to be growing fast.
I think it actually was the fastest growing municipality in Tasmania.
Yeah.
So you think of that, I suppose, with land.
Don't
land
fact
release.
check us.
Yeah, exactly. I heard it on the grapevine once. And when I say heard it, I made it up. No,
It was the bartender behind the bar told him, and he was like, "Yep, okay."
Yeah, and that was me looking in the mirror when I was drunk. But then, so that you think about how many young families are moving into that suburb. So over the next 10 years, looking across all those, that infrastructure that helps for young people to have, more new activity. Sorel makes perfect sense for something.
Yeah, no,
like
it
that.
should be good.
Oh, and then, if you're making it easier for people to get there from the city with all this extra, it's no different to then coming out towards Glenorchy or your Bridgewater ways. So, Sorel, watch this space. Probably a good spot to get into.
And look, that appears to be the largest development happening at the moment. So, like, you look at some of the other suburbs where land is available, like Oakdown's got 8, Lena Valley 6, New Norfolk 7. They're all sort of lower numbers that don't really show growth. They're probably just indicators that, there's vacant blocks that have just never been built on that are now just turning over.
Yeah, Lena Valley with 6 is a really interesting one because that feels like it's kind of,
so
blocked
there's
in.
two rather large subdivisions up there. So there is probably a few that potentially bought and have decided these costs not to build. And so that I would guess that they're probably located in the one where you've got one for sale or had one, still have one.
And Cantha,
And then there's the one on the other side of the road as well.
Kind of near the John Turnbull Park where they've expanded up into that hill there, I would imagine.
And they're not easy blocks to build on. That's the thing, because Lena Valley, it's a valley, so everything's on a hill.
It's a valley.
It's in the name.
Don't be shocked, people.
Exactly.
It's interesting here though, like John, I know you said like kind of at the moment there's 140 on the market, and maybe that indicates that it's quite slow. But as of April 2022, Hobart had 144 land sales at a 284,000 median. So we're already at 144. There's 140 on the market already.
Gone.
So it's actually looking like it's going to be
Every
a boom
quarter.
year
Yeah.
and continue to grow. So I think the anticipation is that there'll be even more land sales this year than there ever have been across the Hobart region.
It'll just be interesting, I guess, to see how like banks value, like what your intentions to use the land for is straight away. So I know here at our office we've had 2 blocks that recently fell over because the people wanted to buy and build, but then by the time that they got the building costs and the land cost, the total value of the home was not going to be worth what the mortgage was going to be worth.
Yeah.
So I think if you've got a bit of equity behind you, that's where you're going to be able to really negotiate with a landowner and get a really good deal, because
Yeah, yeah.
you're not going to be relying on that end valuation as much to be able to create your next opportunity. But it is also something to be just a little bit careful of as well. You don't want to overcommit in an area if you only plan on living there for 12 months, because you're probably not going to get that money back when the time comes to sell. So
That's an interesting point. Because
Yeah.
the building costs in Hobart at least 30%.
we're
More.
most materials are up 60%.
60%.
Yeah, so
on
timber
material
is
alone.
66% over the last 2 years.
Okay.
Steel's up around 50 something plus. Like, it's all going up like crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the problem, is that the building contracts are getting so expensive now that by the time the house is finished sitting on the land, the valuers can't justify what the home is worth.
Especially if you build within this time frame at this point. Yeah, yeah.
This I might sound ridiculous. Like, hit me if I'm wrong here, but I'm just thinking, don't we grow heaps and heaps of timber? Like, aren't we like? So does the timber get exported out of Tassie and then we have to like import it back in? Like,
I think you might be correct, because I had the same question about power. You know how there's all this talk about power costs going
yes.
up. And so I'm like, well, we have like hydro, so our power is clean, it's cheap, it's free, it's not generated by coal.
Yeah.
But apparently we sell most of our power to the mainland
Yes.
because they need to have so much clean power, but then we buy dirty power back into the state.
Yeah,
And that's why our power bills are going up.
I feel
It
like
just seems like
insane.
literally
It's insane.
ridiculous.
I feel like it's got to be the same with timber. Like, surely the forestry and all that stuff, like where the regrowth.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'd be good to talk to someone about that. But obviously,
Yeah, absolutely.
there's people way smarter than us that are dealing with this. But as you're saying, like, timber is so expensive. I'm just like, oh, we're going to bloody a lot of it.
A lot of element, though, is that I'm just going to have a shot in the dark here.
I love this.
This
Yeah,
is going to
let's
be
just see where
going.
this
Strap
goes.
yourself in, guys.
Yeah, it's gonna get pretty wild from here. But over the challenge, I suppose, that COVID caused is that the supply chain that everything's interconnected to has just been completely, stuffed.
Yep.
And what happened, because money was so cheap, everyone wanted to buy everything. So it just created such an excess of demand that then, shooting out forward, even if I suppose everything was producing at normal capacity, this probably still wouldn't have been able to keep up because there's just way too much demand.
Yep.
And so it'd be several years, who knows how many years before, it just sort of comes back to a normal level after everything's caught up, after everyone's requested all these renovations and builds and across the board.
Look, that sounded really intelligent, John. I can't wait to hear Luke's assessment on that.
Hey,
After
exactly.
you
Oh,
listen.
yeah. Can we just we'll cut that little excerpt out and say analyse? It'll be on Lukeonomics or on the weekly or something.
I feel like you've nailed it, John.
Well,
but
it could be one of those statements that just feels like it's true no matter when you say it.
Yeah.
So you can't really dispute it because it's so vague.
Wouldn't Luke be proud if John was right? Oh, my bravo, he's got it.
He's got it. He's got that one thing.
I've got to say, I completed the trilogy of, this is off topic, but this is about your brother. I was listening to the, Peter Hellier's got a podcast. I can't think. Yasni.
Peter Hellier's got podcast.
Peter Hellier, he basically goes through movies and that people haven't seen and be like, I can't believe you haven't seen this.
Oh, cool.
And
Like
he watched The Godfather, the first one, and now he's gone through all three Godfathers. And I completed the trilogy of Luke watching The Godfather over the weekend. And I feel like I've watched The Godfather with Luke now.
Really?
So,
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I can't think you ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet.
You ain't
Anybody
seen
out there, listen to Peter Hellier's podcast called You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. He doesn't need us to plug it, but yeah.
But if
Luke-
you'd like to plug ours,
But don't you love it though when there's a movie that you want someone to see because you know it's just unbelievable and you're just waiting in anticipation to see the look of their face like, oh my God.
Well, it was like the time I told you that Slice Alone was recutting Rocky together. And you're like,
Yeah.
I've never seen Rocky. And I was
Yes.
just like,
it's
What
like,
the
I don't know
hell?
if you've heard of this movie as The Rock.
The Rock, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God, that is a hell of
so
a
it stars Sean Connery.
the funny thing is, this episode's going to go out before that one that we recorded, so that joke's not going to fly.
Damn it. Well, there's a golden Easter egg for
Yeah.
listening later.
for those that have ended up starting at the end and coming
Yeah. Sorry, back on topic.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that in Tassie too is that we've had, since 2016, the latest census said we've had a population growth of 50 to 60,000 people.
Yep.
So that's 10%. and for Tasmanian's sake, I don't think it's ever grown at that pace before.
Oh, Simon touched on it. I believe this episode's after
This time around.
Yeah, he touched about how Tasmania's got a rising population and Melbourne and
Yeah.
Sydney have got a declining population, hence the reasons why their prices are starting to drop, yet ours seem to be staying steady. So, I think it'd be interesting to see what happens over the next sort of 12 months around land sales.
Well, one thing that I know Glenorchy had been focusing on as a potential is to obviously reimagine the way that the land releases go, because again, where it's archaic's the wrong word, but when you look at, say, it's always suburban sprawl. It's always suburban sprawl. So it's just, large, relatively large backyards with large family homes.
Yep.
And again, it may not be the right way to service the needs of our population moving forward. So that consistent, look at how the land could be better utilised rather than just doing consistent sprawl, hopefully will be something that, they look at over the next, 5 to 15 years.
So you're talking about kind of the medium density stuff that we've covered off before about, building up rather than out.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, what I wanted to talk about building from there, building on what we have been talking about, is kind of the future development of our beautiful city, Hobart. Way back when, probably the first time Simon came on, maybe, we spoke about the Hobart City deal.
Yep.
I don't know if much has happened with the Hobart City deal, but there are still lots of promises that are coming out. So Macquarie Point is a massive one where it's just sitting there. There's massive arguments about what should be done with it. And then another point of contention is the new development of the Tasman Bridge, which has been proposed just this week.
With that, I love the idea. We're just expanding the size of it, so then you've got much more free throw for walking and biking. And I'm not sure if this is a bit of a morbid means, but you can see the height of it as well. So it's way beyond so that people can't use it as a jumping point.
Yes, that is a morbid.
I'm sorry to say, but
It's more about just having accessibility, connecting for bikes, people to walk, run, enjoy the bridge a little bit more than just driving across it is what they're looking at.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I think more people doing like exercise and enjoying the view that comes from that bridge. Why not stop and enjoy it rather than just race across it?
Oh, look, it's kind of that arterial part that brings the Eastern Shore over to us and us over to them, sort of thing. Like, the ferries are really great, but if you can get a better use of it and put bike lanes and etc. in it, why not go for that? Basically, what's happening is concept plans for a $130 million upgrade to the bridge have been released for public comment. So the reason I wanted this episode to be going out before some other ones that we've recorded is this is the first time we've been on top of it where we can say,
Get your comment in.
Because normally I come and say, if we'd have been on top of this, you would have been able to comment, but you've missed your window. So between Monday, June 27th and Tuesday, July 19, 2022, you can contact them or go and have a look at the plans and, let people know. So they're available for public comment, and the public that listen to this, all those people out there,
Get on it.
get on it. And put in your comment, put a little, where did you hear about this? The Property Pod? Just so they know that's where it came from.
I hope their servers are up to the challenge. Like we don't want to crash the system.
Yes, everyone, we'll allocate time slots, right? So don't flood the system.
Yeah, if it crashes on you, don't worry.
So,
We'll talk to them
it's
about
other
it.
passionate Property Pod listeners, and there'll be more time.
I guess
I'm all for it.
I'm all for it. I actually really enjoyed when the Mercury put up this a couple of days ago, reading the comments from all the people below.
Yeah.
Just blows my mind how people think. Like 90% of the comments is, it needs more lanes. Put in 2 more lanes. I'm like, where?
Yeah. And again, all they do, you'd widen it, and then they just condense into the exit lane, instead of completely stuff the whole thing anyway.
Yeah.
And like, it's all well and good to widen it to have a bike trail or a walking path, because the weight involved in that is a lot more sensible. But widen it to get 2 more lanes where trucks and cars can go across it. Just people just think.
There's this image there's a highway, I believe it's in China, where it goes from 50 lanes and condenses into like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And so all you just see is this
Bottleneck.
hundreds and probably thousands of cars just bottlenecking into this tiny little,
Was
vein
this
that can't
one
get
of
out.
those Instagram story videos that you saw, John?
Probably.
It's probably fake, but I like it.
Screw it, let's just say it's true. Let's just say it's true. But
The
I
same bartender showed you the video.
yeah, me again in the mirror. I mean, I guess that's why the artery is a good, analogy for it, because you can try to squeeze as much as you can, but ultimately, if the exit lanes don't exist, well, it's just going to slow everything down.
It's pointless.
Yeah, I suppose with those initial photos where they've got the bright purple surrounded both the interior of it and the exterior, I think that might need to be a bit revisited. It's a pretty intense colour just to be permanent on the bridge.
Oh, you're not a fan of that, John?
Well, I like the idea with all the lights, how they can change it depending upon the season.
Would you prefer it just to be like grey and dull?
Yeah, exactly. Just like
concrete.
like 1970s Russia.
I like the while Mofo was on, being able to see the big red bridge was it was really sweet, and we know.
I suppose at Christmas time you could go green and red, John. That jolly
Yeah,
spirit going.
exactly. Yeah.
Look, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, the coat hanger, people love it. It's kind of an iconic thing. So let's make the Tasman Bridge as iconic as that.
Yeah, exactly.
Be bold, John. Bit of purple in your life. Come on.
You're probably the boldest bloke in this room. Like, think about, look at you. You got your chest hair out. Just letting it hang. He's here worried about a bit purple bridge.
Just coat it in images of my chest there. I mean, that's going.
And that's where we lost all the listeners. Terry, I know you're still there, mate. Thanks for staying around.
Now they're not going to write into the proposal.
No, they've already gone.
Yeah, true. They would have stopped and gone there.
They've already crashed the website.
Just before we leave, I did want to talk about Mac Point. It's a massive point of contention. Even Albo, the Prime Minister, was here the other day saying, get your act together. You've got the place sitting there. The money's allocated from your Hobart City deal. Let's do something with it.
I think
What's
that's
happening?
the biggest problem is that no one will agree on what needs to go there.
Yes.
Like it's the largest piece of land in a city that probably any capital city will see for forever. Like you won't see this amount of land come available so close to the centre of a city.
And realistically, everyone has a right to contribute to their input and what it should be. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, so I think that's always going to be a problem as people try to decide what to utilise it for.
It just feels like classic Tassie, though. Like, let's just, sit on our hands and not do anything and just let it... Like, it's just sitting there doing nothing. Like, make a decision on the footy stadium or put in... Bob Clifford's come out saying he wants to put in, a shopping district there and, just let it be. Like, put in all the car parks so that we can funnel everyone there. And then let's get the cable car done. But,
Yeah.
it's just nothing's happening.
Nothing.
Well, when one of the old AFL bosses come out to say that it's almost to put in a Tassie team's almost like a free deal for the AFL. Like the Tassie government will supply 50 million, and then if the Macquarie Point built the stadium, AFL doesn't have to contribute a cent. So it's kind of like a free team for the AFL. They don't have to invest anything. So you could, again, if that was there as an internationally recognised stadium. Along with Bob Clifford's point, where you do have a very deep port, so we can invite the largest cruise ships in as well. It's a phenomenal opportunity for a diverse means of inviting people to that section.
Yeah, I think whether it be a sports stadium or some sort of other format, just the ability for events to be held in space, I think, is key. Because events bring in tourists brings in money, that generates more opportunities for the city. So. Stadium sounds like a great idea, and sure, the idea of a AFL team would be great, but maybe it doesn't have to be a footy stadium.
Yes, is that exactly what Tassie needs right now? Maybe not, but just having it sitting there vacant is pretty frustrating as well.
I think having a stadium though that holds closer to 30 or 40,000 people in Hobart is something that the city is getting close to requiring though. Like Bellarive at 18,000, yes, it doesn't very, very rarely fill up. But it also limits the opportunities of events that will come here because of its stadium capacity.
Would fill it up.
Yeah. So if we had a bigger stadium that then can draw card bigger events, then there's a larger chance that people would go out to support it. So that's the weird part. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to build it before they would come.
That's it.
Oh.
Straight out of Wayne's World.
Straight out of Wayne's World. It's not Field of Dreams, baby. It's Wayne's World.
I was thinking Field of Dreams, but anyway.
We're not worthy. All right, guys, that is this week's episode. Thank you, Nino, for popping together the notes for us. We got through most of them. There's a bit of land out there to buy. There is a bridge development that you can comment on if you're timely in listening to this episode.
Absolutely.
And if one of you could just suggest that it be vinyl wrapped in John's
Chest hair.
that'd be such a good comment to go through.
I was listening to this podcast and they recommended that I mention them and something to do with chest hair. So thank you. They're respectable real estate agents, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
All right, guys. Thanks for wasting your time listening to the Property Pod once again. We'll be back next week with more silly banter.
See you guys.
See ya. You have been listening to the Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Code.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek then use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.